So welcome back to the Dr. Mo Show. Today I have Dr. Cynthia, who has made a fantastic shift. And we're just talking before we started recording about what it felt like before and what it feels like now. So I want to hear this from you, Cynthia. What it feels like, what you're doing, kind of explain the things that I've already read and I already know to the listeners.
Yeah. So before we started recording, Dr. Mo had mentioned how so many physicians out there felt like they were dying a little bit on the inside. And that certainly was how I felt. Like a little piece of my soul was breaking every single day before I made this shift. I previously was in full-time academic medicine, loved being faculty. I was associate program director of a family medicine residency program, and inpatient director. Absolutely loved mentoring, teaching residents. For those in academic medicine, I don't have to talk about the challenges that a lot of faculty admin and administrators face in terms of the challenges in, trying to do everything with the limited amount of time and resources that you had. And I think the mission of so many of us, is so pure. And the healthcare system has evolved over time into this giant beast that makes practicing medicine and doing the things that we love to do um, every day, more difficult, I should say. And I think not to demonize the system at all. I think it's there for a reason. Physicians and institutions are here to serve patients. But I think along the way, that pure mission of being able to help a physician, help a patient, help our communities has become lost a little bit in the giant industry that medicine now is. And it has shifted to more, I think, of a business oriented industry these days. And so, I won't go on about the specific nitty gritties of the stress in the day-to-day life. Needless to say that things changed for me when I got pregnant. And that was the first time in my life I had to really start taking care of myself. I mean, I would go the whole day with, not drinking water. All of us had a little AKI. Not using the bathroom, not eating. The first time, would be when I got home at the end of that day. Um, and I couldn't do that when I was pregnant. I was growing this little baby in my womb and I had to rest. I mean, I would start having early contractions in my second trimester when I couldn't sit down and I couldn't drink enough water. I couldn't eat. And I couldn't do that. And I wanted her to not feel that stress that I was feeling so much on a day-to-day level. And that stress that I'm talking about was during COVID when things were at its absolute height for all physicians, for the healthcare system, right? I didn't want her to feel any of that. So I started, doing prenatal yoga. That was a priority for me. I call them micro moments of check-ins every day. Am I thirsty? Do I need to use the bathroom? Do I need to, eat a little bit? And slowly that mindset changed of having to serve everyone first, really wanting to serve my baby first. And that has just grown since then. After I gave birth, that was another huge monumental change for me and shift in priorities. That was actually the moment I got my first coach, and life changing. It broke so many limiting beliefs of my identity as a physician, as a woman, as a mom in medicine, what it's supposed to look like, how I felt. And I realized being a doctor and a mom and a wife, right? All of those things. It doesn't mean you have to sacrifice your own well-being first. In fact, when I took care of myself first, I showed up so much better for everyone around me, including my family and my husband. And I have never gone without a coach since then. And I started doing coaching courses. I'm on my second coaching course now, getting certified as a life coach. And so I ended up leaving my full-time job a little over a year ago. It was last end of May, and it's June now. And I can't believe the direction my life has turned and how different things were a year ago compared to the way things are now.
Let me ask you this, because this was a hard part for me. When you left your full-time job, and looking back is one thing, and I agree 100% that when you can replenish You show up very differently for your family. And I do have some regrets that I don't I do have I try not to have regrets, but I do have regrets that I didn't do it sooner because of I see the difference. So how was it for you with the identity shift, leaving those preconceived notions on what a mother, wife, doctor looks like?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I have a motto that I live by, and I'm not sure how much I broadcast it, but it is live life, period, no regrets, period. And I really try to think about that now when I'm making decisions. So, I knew I wanted to be a doctor in high school. So, you're working decades in high school, college, right? You're trying to get into medical school, all the volunteering, extracurricular activities, and residency. And you have this identity of what you think a doctor should be during that whole time that you're working towards being a doctor. And suddenly you graduate residency and you're here and you're doing it. And for some people, for me, I don't know for others, right? For me, it was amazing. Those first couple of years, I was so happy. This was everything I wanted to do. I wanted to be faculty. And I felt so lucky that I was able to do that right out of graduating. Slowly, I think part of it is that deconstructing of what you do think a doctor should be, right? Seeing patients every day. But did you know that you were going to be doing it 15-minute, 20-minute intervals all day with 2 to 3 hours of whack, right? Work after clinic, admin work, X, Y, and Z piled on top of that? I think at one point in time, I was maybe working close to 80 hours a week.
Mm.
Um, Trying to get everything done, right? And so to break those things down of my thoughts and what I thought I had to do in order to quote unquote be a good doctor or a good physician or a good faculty was a long process and involved, honestly, involved a lot of grief in that
Mhm.
change in identity and breaking it down for what I thought it should look like versus my reality and what I was passionate about, what I loved doing, what I enjoyed doing, and marrying those two into wanting a good work life balance to be able to spend with my family and my daughter. Um, and creating that new identity of yes, this is okay. I'm giving myself permission to not work crazy hours or to not work full time because I don't want to live with any regrets. And we all get one life and it's such a short amount of time. And at that time, I didn't know what the next phase of my life was going to look like, but I knew one thing. It was I needed to cut way back on my work and I wanted to be at home and spend time with my daughter and watch her grow up. I didn't want to miss those milestones. And I think I was really fortunate because I saw the power of coaching and invested in that. And so I think because of that was maybe able to make some of those shifts, find clarity in my life goals and what I wanted to achieve a little bit earlier on so that I could build my life into what I wanted it to look like. And it's not perfect by any means. I think I'm still on that journey, but I can tell you, I don't know, I am way 100% much happier than I am today than I was a year ago.
That's incredible. When you were, say, a year ago, because you said some things that really resonated with me. I loved my job. I mean, I absolutely love my job. For the listeners, they probably hear this every episode, which is sorry, sorry, not sorry. I was 13 years in the same department that I absolutely loved, working overnights in the ER. I mean, I loved it. I'm a night person. Now I have a human alarm clock. I am no longer a night person. The world lives in daylight. So, I mean, I'm still a night person. I just have to make concessions, like go to bed early. But when you look a year ago, did you think you were unhappy, right? You felt like something was breaking, but for me, I didn't know how, not necessarily unhappy, because I wasn't unhappy. I was really happy. Misaligned, I guess. And I think that's the difference that I'm hearing from you as well, is that now you feel like you're really living true to this one precious life that you get to build.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point that you bring up, which I didn't do. One thing I didn't do was examine my values, my personal values, and how that might align with my job duties and responsibilities, and even so I was employed at that time, even the institutional values. And while some things I loved, there were many other things that just it was not a good fit. And I would say the values were misaligned. The people there I still love. The residents there I still love, right? The administration there I still have contact with. I think they're all great people, but I think what you said was true was maybe it was just not a good fit for myself and what I wanted to do at that time and in terms of our values. And so one of the first things my coach at that time did, and one of the first things I do, so I'm a career and life coach for physicians. One of the first things I do is look at your values. What kind of values are important to you? What mission is important to you and what you want to achieve in life? How do you want your day-to-day life to look like, and what is your priority, right? So for me, my work-life balance, the time I spend with my family, the relationships I get, like wanting to be there for my daughter, out of all these critical milestones and family moments, that was the most important thing to me. And it probably will be for the next couple of years. My daughter is almost 2. And this is the time I want to be present with her for. So that is my priority for now. That goes when I'm creating my weekly schedule. I use a tool called time blocking. When I'm creating my schedule, that is the first thing that goes in my schedule. And then everything else goes in after that. So I know I'm always preserving enough time with my family and her, and everything else becomes secondary. And choosing to live by that mission when I'm keeping my priorities number one, I have just found myself to be so much happier because when you're giving your time away, when you keep your schedule open, someone else is always going to fill in that time slot. So when you're looking at things like self-care, like that's the first thing I also put in my calendar is making sure I have a certain number of days preserved to yoga and exercise, right? Those are things that are important to me, movement. When I'm preserving my self-care, care with my family, you just live a more happy, aligned life, true to your values and the goals and mission you want to accomplish.
Absolutely. And I think going through medical school, I'd done an interview, had a podcast guest recently who said, I know how to work hard. We know that. We're trained for that. But we don't know, or I didn't know how to actually dedicate time. And it's funny you say that with time blocking. I actually choose to call them boxes because to me,
Ah,
blocks to me feel like they're closed. Like I can't put anything in them. And I don't know why. The mental image stresses me out. So I call them time boxes because I'm like, if I need to, I can open up the box and I can put something else in it. But it's on there and it's intentional. And it took me 3 years to actually get a good system when I'm not working full time, because working full time is survival, right? When you're not at work,
yeah.
you've got to pay the bills, you got to feed your kid, you got to do the things, whatever, it's just a different thing. It just stuff fits wherever it fits. But now that, we've created these intentional lives, we have a calendar, or should, if you don't, so many of the doctors I work with will actually tell me, well, why do I need a calendar? I'm like, okay, start there. Let's back this truck up because we're not exactly where I thought we were. And, but by having these time boxes, I actually have an index card on my desk downstairs that says live by the time box. And it sounds restrictive, but it's freeing because like you said, people will sneak their way into that white space. It's so easy. And, when I look and I say, oh no, this is the workout this morning. This is what I'm doing this morning. Today was an outside run walk. So I got up and I made sure I had to do that because I knew I had to take my kid to camp we left at 8:30. But those are the things, like you said, they go in first. And we do have other obligations. So I have a dentist appointment coming up. I'm in no mood for that, but it took up my content block, darn it. But things like that, like you said, it's just, and that is so freeing because then it allows, if you have a blocked out time for family, there's nothing else trying to weasel its way in there. Your phone goes
Yeah.
down, your computer goes away, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. So, as a coach, I have a Calendly and I'll look at my own calendar, my personal calendar, and I look, okay, what are my availabilities I want to post on Calendly? This day we're going to go to Disneyland, right? During this time, I'm going to be going on a date night with my husband. We can't schedule anything there, right? So, I look at them like not appointments, right? not like a patient encounter appointment, but it's in your calendar and it reminds you that, okay, I've set aside this time, not for business, not for any, but like for relationship and connection with my husband, because that is also important to me and something I want to prioritize. Or we set aside this family day. We're going to go to Disneyland. I'm not going to schedule anything, no meetings or podcasts or X, Y, and Z. This whole day is blocked out because I prioritize family time. And it's just nice. And then you are always course correcting, right? You're always course correcting in terms of, okay, maybe I do want to work a little bit more, or maybe I'm working too much and I want to pull back. And so for these next couple of weeks, I'm going to prioritize my business because this is going on. Like I have a retreat coming up in October. So I need to make sure that things are on track for that. So for these couple of weeks, I'm going to work on it. It's just about course correcting your daily life and what's feeling true to you at that particular moment and stage in your life.
I think for a lot of us, at least for me, I did not feel that it was okay to change. And this has stayed with me for quite a long time. My brain knew it was okay, but I heard a quote 2, 3 months ago, every job has an expiration date. And I thought, why is medicine looked at differently? And when I left the first ER I worked in after residency, I mean, I left it, I didn't like it. It was a toxic place to work and it was really hard. And I was not in a good place either. Like my relationship was falling apart. I was falling apart. Nothing was good about it. So was it the job? Was it me? Was it the combination? Probably. And I was just coming out of residency, so I didn't know you weren't supposed to work 19 shifts a month because they needed
Ah,
people. They were short staffed. And I thought, oh, all right, well, I can help out. I don't have kids, I will help out. Yeah. Anyway, live and learn. So, 2.5 years later, I left that job. That job had an expiration date. But the second job, because I worked there for 13 years, it was the job I thought I was going to retire from. And instead, the change for me, the transition was not pretty, and that's my book, my word, everything is shift. It's success happens in focused transitions because I felt like my transition was so nebulous and I had no idea. I had no path. I had no guidance. I did. I mean, I had coaches, and the coach that I have now that I maintain primarily is just a godsend. And that transition for me was very difficult. I lost half my hair. I got shingles.
no.
How do I leave this job that I thought I was going to work 4 to 6 shifts for in that ER indefinitely? But now I look at it, I now have a life that I don't need to retire from. And that's a very different perspective. And is it okay that I changed jobs? And I say this as a question. It's so funny, even when it comes out of my mouth. I'm like, is it okay that I changed jobs after 13 years? And I bet everyone listening is like, yeah, why wouldn't it be? But it's still for me, it's this hurdle I had to get over and work through. So, and that's like you said, but it's really about the schedule. Show me your schedule, I'll show you your priorities.
It's funny you mentioned that, right? I think the concept you're alluding to, and correct me if I'm wrong, is called sunk cost fallacy, because that was what came into my brain as you were talking about your story. And for the listeners who don't know what that means, it's the tendency to continue down a certain path, right? And I think this is very, very common for physicians. You continue investing time, money, or energy into something because you have already invested so much. And so you continue to do that even when it no longer serves you and when it doesn't really make sense anymore, you're not happy. But instead of making the decisions of looking at how you currently feel and what your future might look like, you are so concerned about maybe past investments that just can't be recovered anymore. And so for a lot of physicians out there, I don't know if this was true for you, but for me, I certainly felt that it was the thought of I've already spent so much time, decades investing into my training as a physician. What am I going to do now if this is not what I'm doing? Like, I can't walk away now, or I've put so much into this job. I put so much into this institution, creating all of these curriculums. I can't quit now, right? And I think when you're looking at and examining how you're feeling, the reality is that continuing moving forward on this path you've created yourself, just because of lost past investments, to me now looking at that, I think it contributes to even greater loss, right? That is your future, your loss of your future time, opportunity, energy, and your happiness. And what price can you pay for being happy, right? And I think the reality is that personal growth often looks like just giving yourself permission to pivot and shift. And like you said, to transition into something else that you can build starting right now at this moment, right? And it's turtle steps. If you did one small change every day, or even one small change every week that honored what it is you loved to do, whatever that might be, and create to making, let's just call it wellness, for example, right? Creating one small change that honors your wellness every single week for a year. Imagine what your life would look like in 1 year, how different that might feel. And you talked about the fear, right? And I think that fear, it's funny, my dad passed very recently, and I had a lot of coaching around this. And one of the topics that came up was the art of not knowing. And when I was talking about that with my coach, I realized how similar that was when I was making that transition of my own, the art of not knowing. There's always going to be fear involved in something you don't know, something you don't have control over, what your next step is going to be like, what your future would look like if you made this decision, right? But what if you didn't make any decision? What would your look like in 3, 6, 9 years from now? It would still be the same. You would still be unhappy, or maybe not your happiest. You might feel, maybe for some people it just feels like something's missing, right? But imagine if you just took that one step and see what it was like, and you just explored, and what if it could be so much better and so much happier. That's what I tell myself now when I am looking at transitions in my life. It's what I coach my clients about. And thinking back now, like I said, 1 year ago, I cannot imagine how I would be feeling at this moment in my life, and how happy and satisfied I am with my life because of those decisions that I've made.
And those decisions are courageous because it isn't taking the same step over. You're comfortable with those steps, right? You knew how to do that job. You knew how to build that. I loved my job, and I recently met a surgeon, and we happened to be on the same plane, and he said to me, "You did love it, but you love this more." And something you said hit me so hard just now. What is the price you pay if you don't move toward that future? I've never heard it phrased that way. And I mean, it brings me to tears. If I had not had the courage to take the steps, if you had not had the courage to take the steps, if you had stayed for it's false security, really, because we know medicine and we know what medicine looks like and we know what it does to us physically, and there is really very little security. I mean, we know we can always find a job, but do you want a job, or do you want a life and a career and ownership and autonomy? I mean, we know that's what makes us happy, fulfilled. But that hit me. What is the price you pay? What is the price you pay by staying, by taking the easy route? Because it is easy, right? So many of the doctors that I talk to that are interested will say, it's just easier for me to work another shift. And it is easier until it's not.
Well, and I think, shift work, right? Or salary work, what we're really doing is we're trading time for money. When you are paid every hour, it's easy to say, if I work more, I'll get paid more. But again, like you said, it works for you. And I think it serves its purpose in a lot of instances. That might be something you want to do, but is it something you want to do forever in the long run? And does it bring you joy? Are you satisfied with it? And if the answer is yes, that is also totally fine. But I know for a lot of physicians, that might not be as satisfactory with what they want to achieve for themselves and for what they want to bring to the world. Like a vision statement, right? What does your life vision statement look like for you, and all of your decisions and the things that you're choosing to do, bringing you one step closer to that? So for me, I want to make sure all physicians know that sustainability in medicine is possible. And how can we create that for you?
I love that because
Right.
that's you phrased it much better than I do. My goal is to keep as many emergency medicine doctors on the ground that we as we can. Because your
Mm.
patient doesn't know if you're working your first shift or your 20th. Your patient has no idea. They care that they need you that day. Are you there for them? And what do you have to give them? And we know, you and I both know, if you're on shift 16 of the month, if you just, or, it's Friday, if you're Monday to Friday, you're not giving the same thing that you gave at the beginning of that shift stretch or that week, or, you're not replenished. We're not doing the things. And it's through no fault of your own. This is the way the world has been taught. I mean, that's the factory lifestyle.
Right. Right. And so sustainability in medicine, what does that look like for you? Is it working 16 shifts? I don't know. Is
I know
it
some who work
doing,
like 28, so it might be 16.
I don't know, right? Is it working fewer shifts? Is it working less clinical, maybe more admin, more advocacy, more, I don't know what non-clinical career options. Is it building your own private practice or your own DPC, right? I don't know what it might look like for you. I think it would look different for every single person, but I think breaking free of what you think a physician, your identity, right? Your identity of what you think a physician should look like, and really asking yourself what you're passionate about, looking at your day to day and seeing where am I most excited and joyful and happy, and bringing in more of that into your life and less of maybe something else that doesn't create as much joy and happiness for you. I think those are questions you could start asking yourself when you want to create that sustainability in medicine for you.
Yeah, that's it. That's a very good point. And let's kind of steer toward that because I want the listeners to know if they're hearing this. I'm very overwhelmed and I don't know where to start. I don't even know, like, what would I possibly do when I feel like I have not even a blank page to write on. There's nothing. It's writer's block. It's life writer's block. So where would you tell people, where do they start?
Yeah, it's funny. I hear this all the time, right? But I would say be curious and be aware. So you all know what happiness and joy feels like, and you all know what dread feels like, right? And so I'll say, for example, right, at the end of a crazy clinic day, if you're working outpatient, dread feels like, oh my gosh, I didn't get to any of my notes, and now I have 24 notes to write at the end of the day. That's how I describe that. And so during your days, just where is it that I'm excited? And what is drawing me to a particular instance, right? Or a particular event or activity. So I'll tell you, for me, one of the most things I am most excited about is advocacy in medicine. I love catching up with my colleagues. I love so I'm family medicine, part of heavily involved in advocacy on our local, state, and national chapters. And these conferences, these events, like going to Lobby Day, for example, I'm so excited to go and spread the message about what it is family physicians do, what's important. There's all these legislation, really important things going on, like vaccinations, right? Going on right now, topics that I feel are really important for the physicians, but also our communities and our patients. But I love doing those things. And for me, I really, really, really do not like charting or documentation. And I actually do a little bit of coaching on charting. So I usually don't have a lot of notes, but I try to be creative on what I can do so that I can, one, make sure I get my notes done at the end of the day, or two, have someone else do it. And is it going to be a scribe or an AI? So I've been testing out AI now in our clinic, or our medical director at, because I want to make sure every physician who is working there wants to be there. And that's been one of the top administrative burdens, is documentation and addressing inbox challenges, right? So what can I do to make sure that they enjoy doing what they love doing, which is seeing the patients, and ease the burden on some other areas that they don't love doing so much? And what can I do to help with that in terms of our clinic flow, in terms of our protocols, workflow policies? So those are all things that I look at when I'm looking at, when I'm helping physicians, and particularly our medical group, in the day-to-day work, to make sure they're actually enjoying what they love to do, which is just see the patient.
That is absolutely incredible that you want to make sure that your staff wants to be there. That is
Absolutely.
But it's so simple, right? You say this and I hear it thinking that's the way everybody should think. But it probably does not enter our minds very often.
Yeah, if you don't want to be there, you're going to show up a certain way. Our patients are not, right? Patient satisfaction
Feel it.
scores and the care that you're providing. I think studies have shown that physicians who are well in terms of having a good well-being, good work-life harmony, their patient satisfaction scores are higher, patient care is better. And so if we can make sure our physicians are happy and like being there, like showing up at work, their well-being is preserved, I think it's just for the benefit of everyone involved, both our medical group, the institution, and the physicians and patient care in our community.
I can't agree more. Cannot. That's amazing. And I love that you are so passionate about advocacy. That's not my forte. That's not where I like to sit, but that's okay. We all sit in a different spot. And that's why, it's such an honor to have you on. I love talking to physicians because we all have very different, like you said, everyone's path is individual. I don't know what calls to you, what calls to me doesn't call to you. There's room for everyone. There's room for
Yes,
all of them.
there is no shortage of need of physicians in this world, no shortage of coaches, right? We all have different fortes and niches as physicians. I can't do what you do. Oh my gosh, emergency medicine, can't do that. But I love what I do. And so, absolutely, I think there's room for everyone. And there's a huge need for all of us too.
Yes, the world needs your voice. The world needs your care. The world needs you. And if you're listening, I'm talking to you. I'm not just talking to Cynthia, I'm talking to you because that is the one thing when it gets really dark that you need to remember the world needs your voice. And it's not just your family, they need you more than anyone. But the world needs your voice. So, Cynthia, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, resonates with this, and says, oh, how do I get into lobbying? Wait a second, how did she break her life open this way? So, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. My email is thrivationcoaching@gmail.com, and you can find more information about me at my website, www.thrivationcoaching.com.
So, to the listeners, go hit up Cynthia. She's got an amazing, amazing view on life, sense of peace that I can feel. Thank you so much for your time today. It has been an absolute joy.
Thank you so much.